Gotta get used to this.
Yeah, how you feeling over there?
If this was like 6 inches lower, and that's what I want to find for the studio upstairs.
What about just trimming the legs?
No, I want to be deeper in the chair.
Just actually in the chair. I got you.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I was
this,
sitting like this.
right?
Yeah. To me, that's why I've always liked the table style podcast. Is that I have something to kind of like, you're not just.
Here goes.
Yeah, it feels weird, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mind sitting in couches and like open spaces, but I want to be deep in it to where, I don't know, just kind of in something.
Well, it feels a little more natural too.
Yeah.
Sitting down in it, so.
Because right here, you're just trying to get comfortable and whatnot. But
it's funny.
dude, yeah, y'all's podcast, man, the MotoState Podcast. I don't consume a lot of motorcycle podcasts, just simply out of, I don't even know why. I just think maybe I try to find stuff that I'm interested in and whatnot, but I'm not like a podcast every day kind of guy.
Okay.
But I found that y'all's has been, basically you're putting it out there the right way. Like I see a headline, I'm like, oh shit, I want to hear their point on this.
Well, I appreciate that.
You know, and I think it's probably influenced me to start putting a little bit more context in a title.
Okay.
As opposed to before, I used to just say Baker Drivetrain 2.
Sure. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, I get you. I think it's a fine line of giving the listener or viewer an idea of what's going to be on, but also, I mean, I don't want to say clickbait, but you got to get their attention, right?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, besides just a thumbnail. And our thumbnails are consistent. We use the same background. We'll use this color scheme this year, a different one next year, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's being intentional with that.
Yeah.
But it's worked out pretty well. And I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've put a lot of thought into it, and we've tried to mix it up with what's been out there. 75% of it's motorcycle shit. I get it, and it always will be. But we didn't want to paint ourselves into a corner where that's all we talked about. You can only talk about winter builds so many times, or whatever, or especially like, well, what pegs are you running, or what floorboards? Like, all right, so. And we're not in a position where we're building our own bikes where there's something else we could talk about like you, which is awesome. And I watch a lot of that from you, but talking about life, and because we feel strongly there's a segment out there that wants to hear about life and wants to hear about, we've talked about parenting. We just released this week, we talked about, the internet has receipts, right? We kind of talked about Easy Rider and that stuff, and but not just them, it was about like, we went from talking about be careful what you put out there, and how are you teaching your kids to be responsible on social media. So
I think when people can find motorcycle related content through a channel like yours, but then they can also get some insight to how you parent or how you handle your careers and things like that. There's a unique opportunity to humanize the host of the podcast, and people can connect with it.
And I think if you the guests we've had on, we've talked about parenting, we talked about or talked about how they run the company. That's like what one first one that comes to mind is like Tab Performance, the exhaust company that the way talking to Casey on their first episode was about how they treated their clients and how they also treated their employees, and that, to me, that warmed my heart. It's like, oh, there's still some good people out there that you're not just employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're Luke, you're Jace. You've been here 5 years, 10 years. Thank you for your service. And so it's nice to hear those things, and it's an opportunity to see the kind of peek behind the curtain of those companies as well. But it's funny you say, you don't watch a lot of motorcycle content. I listen to a podcast every day until I started making one, and then
it gets tough.
I have maybe a handful that I regularly watch, and then I'll binge watch a few on YouTube.
When I drive places, though, when I'm going to be trapped in the car for hours, like when I rode up there or drove up to, and I saw you guys up in St. Louis and stuff, I mean, it was podcast, right? But I think that there's a lot out there. And even like as an OG Rogan listener, I'm very selective of what I watch of his, You know what I mean? When I first started listening to podcasts, every time he put a podcast out, I was like, I'm learning who Rhonda Patrick is today, and I guess my gut health is whatever. Like I was almost consuming too much stuff that made it too muddy in my head all the time. You know?
Gotcha. Overwhelm yourself.
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
And you know, motorcycle stuff, like you kind of said it best. It does get repetitive. You know, when I first started interviewing people, I found that the paths to a motorcycle business are very similar in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And so I felt like I was hearing the same story, but it was 7 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. It
Right.
was a winter night instead of a summer night. It was like these small things were different about someone's origin story, and you know, I started feeling like, man, I got to find a way to extract something
Sure.
deeper. And so you get in these deeper conversations, and you get so far off of, well, I only listen to this podcast, so I wanted to hear about the gas caps this guy makes, right?
Sure, yeah.
And we're over here talking about something much deeper, you know, and that's where it gets kind of difficult in my overthinking mind to stay on track with, like, we're a motorcycle podcast. But to your point of what you just said, like, we can go so far off the tangent of, you know, I came here to talk to you about handlebars today, but we talked about social media all day. You know, it's like, even if you try not to plan not to do it, it sometimes happens. And then if you go off a list, then it
Sure.
feels contrived. It doesn't feel like a conversation as much sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, talking points, I have those notes, you know, for either, whether it's a guest or not, right?
Yeah.
Like I got some talking points because I will get off in a tangent.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I need to bring this back in, right? Those things happen. But I mean, I guess I look at podcast as, you know, listen, this is the framework, but we don't have to stay to that.
Yeah.
And if the listener doesn't like it, then, and they're not going to listen to me anymore because of that one episode, they weren't really committed to it to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
What do you think is, like, being someone that was on the other side of podcasting, now being on this side of it, what do you think is some of the things that you didn't know, or, you know, a major topic or a major difference of, like, not knowing that this is how it is, or whatever, you know?
you know, there was so much, I knew that there would be a lot of work to start one. I'll start there. And there was even more work to do than that. But then once we got rolling, I guess we got lucky in that, you know, we had some guests early on, and it was easy to set up. But how hard it can be to get a guest at times, especially ones you really want that maybe are higher profile, even just trying to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
I think that I won't say hard, the most time consuming, I didn't realize how time consuming the social media and marketing it was going to be. And looking back on it, I should have realized that, and I probably didn't put enough thought into that part of it. Like, I'll run the socials and no big deal, but it takes work and it takes intentionality. So it's, you know, we use a program called Riverside, and it gives you, like, the AI, like with everything else, gives you some, you know, 20-second and 50-second clips that you can use. So cool, but I want to use this and this and this, so I've got to download all three and patch them together and make a reel, just like anywhere else. But that takes a lot of work, and I'm trying to do one of those 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And then some stories, and then, you know, repost some stuff from our sponsor, and, you know, it just, so it really has become a part-time job, and I'm not complaining. Like, I knew what I signed up for, but that's probably been the time piece of it, and making sure that, you know, that my daughter understands, she sees me on the phone and on social media, like, she understands why I'm on there. I'm not just fucking around on my phone, right? Yeah. And my partner knows it. Like, hey, sweetheart, I'm not ignoring you. We have limited time together, but I've got to get this real. I've got to, you know, I've got certain things I've got to take care of. So just being intentional and figuring out when that works. And sometimes that's waking up at 5 a.m. and knocking that out, or staying up late and go ahead and creating those on a Sunday for the whole week. And
meal prepping almost.
Yeah, right. I want to do that. It don't always happen. But that's ideally what I try to do. Or it's just waking up early, laying in bed, and knocking it out before I start my day. So that's probably been the biggest thing. Just I don't think I expected as many hours I put into it that I'm actually putting in.
How many, like, per podcast, outside of the actual sitting down and having a conversation, how much time do you think you have if you were to associate it like a normal job? Like this podcast, I have 7 hours in prep and, whatever, or 3 hours or 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you put in like prep time, especially with a guest, so, I try to get on the phone with them for even 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of give them a lay of the land, make them feel more comfortable, especially if they haven't been on many podcasts before. So if you think of that, research your guest or research the subject, the social media aspect. I probably put in, not including record time, probably 2 to 3 hours per episode, and then the social media or marketing it on top of that. And then we have a Discord, like you use for Patreon. We use the old school Discord, so I need to be present in that from every day, at least check it, a couple times a day. So there's that, and then we make Patreon only episodes, and so recording those and getting those out there. We do a once a month. Like we do a Google Meets, like just with the top tier paid Patreon. They get 30 minutes with us. We shoot the shit and have fun, drink some beers. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And again, that's what I signed up for. And for me, it was a big passion project. This community has given me so much. And I blame a lot of that on you, like in a good way. I mean, it was it started with the 5 Dirty Bikers podcast. It was the first podcast I ever listened to.
Yeah.
And then you were a guest. I was like, let me try this fast life out. I was like, oh, wow, what's this long distance riding? There's something besides my hog chapter. I didn't know. I mean, I was just some idiot in St. Louis, and I can customize my bagger how? Oh, cool. And so a huge rabbit hole and spent a whole lot of money, but it's also put me on the road and laying down a lot of miles. And I've learned that is like my own therapy. And so what this community has given me, this is me trying to give back in some form or fashion. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good point you made, because like I remember someone told me once that like they said your podcast is like the next step after you listen to like a in no way does this mean like throwing shade at any other thing, but like they said, I found motorcycle content through Blockhead, but then I felt like some of the content he was making, it just like I had created friends in a community now, and I didn't need to know how to, change my oil or some kind of more newer rider kind of content. And this is years ago, and so like then I found your podcast, and it was like the next layer of motorcycling from. Once you form communities, how to get them together, then going on trips and going out and being vulnerable and stuff like that. And I was like, that wasn't intentional. Like I just, from where, being in this thing for so long, naturally I'm talking about these things that are more present in my life.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, even as someone that's been riding since 2003, like I would say that I only really found community in this within like the last 10 years.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
And that's mainly because of social media and things like that, because you can find the people that are into the bikes you're into, and you kind of get a chance to kind of sift through the ones that are the bad apples.
Right.
Or maybe that you don't jive with as much.
Yeah, you just don't connect with, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it's the same thing with podcasts, right? Like every podcast or YouTube channel is a little bit different. So you're going to take nuggets from each, right? Like I really love 2-Lane Guys. So that's a very different podcast than yours, right? And not that one's good or bad.
Yeah,
it's just you take nuggets from each. And so, listen to yours, and I learned about 2-Lane, and I learned about so many others. And, even down the road in Waco, Bogey Biker, I mean, for me, that's fun listening to him or watching him on YouTube, because he's 2-3 years into riding, and I was there. Not that long ago, I was there, and it's cool to like see that experience and kind of relive it through him vicariously.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's such an out of sight, out of mind concept of like, what it's like to be new at this again, because it's when I experienced the new thing of motorcycling, the world was such a different place back then. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, we had MySpace.
Right.
It was different, and I don't think it's better that I've got it or not. I just think it's like it's a unique perspective I'm never going to get to have of like what it's like to have found, the camp outs or traveling or whatever, because I didn't find traveling on a motorcycle until 10 years ago.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I found it through happenstance of like being around other people that were doing stuff, but there was not a place I could go find that on the internet.
Sure.
Or there probably was. I just wasn't tuned to that to find it. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, I did a couple weekend trips for listening to any podcast ever.
Yeah.
And then, but I learned through your podcast, Fight Over Bikers, Two Lane, whoever, several of them, that how to really approach it, a better way to approach it.
Yeah.
Because y'all, I think at the end of the day, we're all sharing our experiences. So you shared your experience about, whatever it was, and also bike nights. So I looked at bike nights so much differently, and I never had trouble being outgoing, but just taking a different approach in bike nights. But back to traveling, sorry, just like how to pack down and whether it's phone holders or things like that, like just, I mean, sharing those experiences goes a long way, because then I like to go down the rabbit hole. Like, all right, what was he talking about? All right, let me look that up.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun.
It feels more authentic, right?
Sure,
Whenever
absolutely.
and this is something I used to say before, when I was in the big wheel bagger world, like it was not common for people to ride those bikes. And I was very, very out of place because me and my buddies were traveling the country on these bikes.
Sure.
And we were those dudes that would go and ride from here to San Francisco and do all this shit that I still do to this day. But the whole industry didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? It just wasn't built around that. It was built around how much money that I put in this. And there's quality. There was that.
But to sit in a parking lot, right?
Or we're loading all these bikes up and we're going to Arizona Bike Week.
Sure.
And then, me and my buddy are showing up to Arizona Bike Week and going to all the shows with our dirty, bugged out bikes.
Right.
And we're not getting any love. But it showed. I learned a lot in that time. And even though at that moment I felt more not jaded, but like more like I want like opposing them, like because they weren't into what I was into. But I was kind of like doing something fringe in their world that nobody else is doing. So why am I mad at them for not doing this? And that's when I kind of moved into the dynaculture and things like that. And the
flip side, why are they holding that against you? That makes no sense.
And they really didn't. They didn't give a fuck that I existed. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
So
sure.
It was just like, hey, look at me. I'm doing something that none of y'all are doing, and I'm cooler. It's kind of like it was like my own shit kind of thing, But, man, I do, when my little brother was around a lot more, I used to tell him, I was like, dude, I wish I could, you were 20 years old and you rode to Sturgis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were 21 years old and you're riding to Indianapolis. Like you were doing stuff that I wish I would have known about or had access to or had someone to kind of take me into it, when I was younger.
For sure. I mean, look at Forever Ride Kyle's son.
God.
I mean, I probably watched that video 3 or 4 times.
If I'm ever going to be envious and just straight hate on somebody for no reason, it's going to be one of his kids.
Well,
as they continue to grow in this awesome culture and having, parents like he has.
The level of jealousy I have for his son is unreal. And then the admiration I have for Kyle, I mean, I always thought the world of him, and still do, but as a parent, like, man, good for you. I mean, to be able, not to just doing it, but have the ability to do it.
Yeah, when he was talking about sharing, like going to Sturgis on the Softail.
Yeah.
His, that, to me, like that's winning the lottery. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Straight up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I hadn't seen him in a while. I bumped into him a couple weekends ago at Cycle Showcase. And I was like, man, good on you for what you did with your son, taking the long way home and all that. Like, that was so awesome. Like, And I don't think my daughter's ever, I just have one kid. She's 13 going on 24.
Yeah.
And, I don't, she may be a motorcycle rider one day, but it won't be anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I hope it will be, and I hope I get to experience that. But there's never, at 18, she's not going to be riding anywhere.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
and only if she isn't going to ride, it's going to be on the back of my bike, no other guys.
No, I feel you on that, man. It's definitely different. Well, again, like back to y'all's podcast, like I think it's I don't know how to kind of like step into this like segment or this area of it, but it's like it's nice to have a podcast where the people's perspective is somewhere different than where I'm from.
Okay.
Because earlier when we first started talking, your perspective, or you can kind of familiarize yourself with a lot of the audience, because a lot of your audience and my audience as well, they do have normal jobs like a banker or work at the driving trucks or whatever, right?
Sure.
I do this for a living. Like,
Right.
and so I think sometimes I have a harder time connecting with an audience on career stuff because this is my job, right?
Sure.
And my perspective of my podcast is from the industry side out, as opposed to like, I feel like y'all's perspective in the episodes that I've listened to has been more from a writer's perspective in to
Writer
culture.
and consumer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Which is a good perspective. It's something that I think that makes the core essence of each individual podcast something different. That's why we can probably have the same guests and have completely different conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly relate to them as a business owner, right? And then the industry side, where we'll talk to them probably a little bit on the business side, but maybe culture, and then and how they're treating their clients, their employees, and then what does that look like? How are they developing new products, and how do they get there? Like, how do we see these type of foot pegs or whatever, handlebars or whatever?
Yeah, sometimes it's like I have to remind myself that the way I'm asking the question for the audience needs to be reworded or restructured. That way they're explaining what we're even talking about.
Yeah.
When you're talking about, hey, why make that grip, if you're going to spend 50 to 100 grand R&D and some grips, you want to make sure it'll work on more than one bike. And most people are like, well, they wouldn't probably think about that. They think about, oh, well, the new Road Glides are out. Why don't I have grips yet?
Right.
Well, how many, is it just going to be a CVO with a new throttle grip, or is all the bikes going this direction?
Well, I really enjoy that industry insight when you have, whoever you have on the show within the industry, because I don't think about that, right? Just like you said, and great, I don't have a 24 or 25 model motorcycle either, but it makes sense. Like the R&D and the piece of it that goes into it, there is that lag, and I just don't think about that always.
Yeah.
I think that insight's really good.
Do you have like a favorite type of podcast that you've been a part of? Like, because I think we naturally do have conversations that we find ourselves more enjoying to be in. Have you found of anything like that within doing this stuff that you...
Like a favorite subject or?
I mean, it could be subject, or it could be like for instance, like some people really just like to hear an origin story.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Some people like to hear not so much of a debate, but maybe on a more debate scale of things, perspective wise.
I love to be challenged, and I love to challenge someone.
There you go. Yeah.
And I've said it many times in our episodes. I want to listen to understand, not respond. So, and hopefully get that in return.
Yeah.
But and I'm agnostic to the subject, but I like a good debate or a good just something thought provoking. And whether that's more recently we talked about influencers versus real riders or whatever. What that means, because you can ask 100 people and you're going to get 120 opinions on that. But I love that, and I love the origin story. For me, is probably one of my favorites, just because I ride because I lost an uncle, and so who was a rider, and he made me want to ride. So for personal experience, that I always like to ask that, like, what got you into riding? And I don't expect a heartfelt, pulling your heartstrings story like mine, but it's fun to hear.
So how were you when you started riding?
I was 40.
40?
Yeah. So
How are you now?
47.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But going back to wishing I could have started when I was 20, but how amazing is it to also find something at 40 and for it to become such a big part of your life?
So I would say, finding riding, I found it. I just couldn't justify doing it. When I was married and had kids, and we were fortunate enough to have rental property and had some land in Southeast Missouri, hey, I want to go do this selfish thing and go ride a motorcycle, because I knew she wasn't going to ride, and my kid was 2 years old. She ain't riding with me. And I was being selfish enough at that time, and that's a whole nother story, but I just couldn't do it. And I never even brought it up, because I just knew. And so I went through a separation and divorce, and where my therapy was down in that land, that farm, and that we had, hobby farm. And when that went away, I needed something new. And so my uncle had passed right before that. He had a couple bikes, and so I was like, hey, once this divorce is final, because I don't want to buy it while I was still technically married. It's like, I'm buying that heritage off the estate. And I sure did. And the rest is history from there. And that was life-changing. Like,
what would you say, like, as you, at that time, and this is me just completely wanting a perspective of
Sure.
like a rider's, you know, what were the steps that you took to find culture, to find your tribe, or to go through the pathways to get into this world?
I mean, it really started with Hog Chapter, because I didn't really have any
What does that
friends.
look like today? Like I'm a Hog member because I got a new bike. But
yeah, I mean, I was at 40. I was the youngest son of a bitch in there by 10 years at least. So it was a good starting point. It was group rides. They were slow paced, and I needed that.
Yeah.
I quickly outgrew that, and it was hard to find. I'm still friends with probably a handful or more of folks from that Hog Chapter. They're all, you know, a little bit older than me, and it's hard to spend a lot of time with them when I'm going to 3 different soccer games this weekend. Your kids are grown and in the military, or you're a grandparent now.
Yeah.
We're just at 2 different stages of life, right? So for me, it was making social media or just going to different bike nights and meeting people and trying to get an idea of vibe and maybe go for some rides.
Were you based out of St. Louis at the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I know that you were in
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville,
yeah, so I moved to St. Louis 20 years ago.
Okay, so you've
So
been
there for a minute. So meeting some friends. So there's I got a small group of people I rode with, and then honestly, social media and these podcasts and I listen to and meeting people, going to bike cycle showcase or whatever, meeting people, and then that's where that grew. And I mean, I've never had like a tight knit group like you've got that I rode with. There's friends that I ride with, maybe a weekend trip or even a day trip, but these trips I take are all solo. Just because I'm a single dad. So I mean, planning a long trip for a week is usually when Sophia's on vacation with her mom or on spring break or whatever it is, where I don't have to ask to change the schedule. You know, that's just it's not just me. It's my co-parent that I'm impacting them too, and I do that enough. I have to do for work, like right now. So,
yes, I don't know that it's better or worse, or even that matters, but like, I got to experience traveling on a motorcycle with a group first. So I feel like I got to be a student in it, as opposed to maybe you getting thrown into the fire of figuring it out, you know? And I don't know that I was, I remember the like some of the first solo trips I ever did, just kind of like feeling like, am I safe?
Sure.
Is this okay?
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
but now it's like I've gotten used to it, where there's some types of trips that I kind of prefer to be solo. And then there's times where I really miss having that close group of friends. And, you know, not to go into the subject too deep, but like, I realize now how rare and hard it is to cultivate a group like I've had.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
You know, it's kind of like it kind of always happened naturally. And so when those kind of like, they run their course, they play out, and it doesn't happen right over again, it's kind of like, oh shit, like that's a very unique position that I got to be in for a long time. So, you know, a lot of me and the friends have grown apart in different ways. You know, no animosity, just life.
Yeah.
You know, someone's getting married, someone's having kids, someone's buying a house, they can't travel the way. And, you know, like I said, my life is much different than theirs.
Sure.
You know, so every year, to me, I'm planning a trip to Born Free every year. I'm planning a trip to Sturgis every year because it's technically work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it's fun, but you still need to make an appearance there.
Yeah. And they might be like, well, you know, we've done Born Free the last 4 years. We want to do a trip to, you know, Key West, Florida, or Maine or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I can't justify going there right now. Like, I don't have the money to just do a trip that's not going to also coincide work. And so that's how it gets hard to kind of cultivate those. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, you know, also, I'm an only child. So I'm used to doing things on my own my entire life. So a solo trip, you mean I can wake up at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. and hit the road or whatever.
What was like some of your initial, if you can remember, maybe obstacles to doing a solo trip, you know, that you kind of were worried about that wasn't a big deal or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, is this safe? Is this really what I want to do? Should I, you know, especially early on, do I need to be on the interstate for that long? You know, not knowing like Rever app or whatever these other apps, just not ignorance. Like you don't know what you don't know, right? So trip planning, I think, was probably the biggest thing because I'm used to planning things out.
I'm a planner too.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I'm gonna have my daughter. I know when I got to work. And I know I have a pretty good idea. I'm gonna have to work late most days. That's fine, or log back in later at night. But those things, I'm used to structure. So that not knowing how to create that structure, I think, was probably kept me from being more hesitant in taking longer trips earlier on in my riding journey.
One of the things that, like, when I did my big trip where I was on the road for so long on that bike, the hardest part was being such a planner that in order to really get this experience, I had to let some things just be what they were going to be.
Yeah.
And it was against every bit of my nature to want to control the situation and the where I need to be at certain times. And if I'm not there, I'm stressing out or whatever the case may be. And I think by the end of the trip, I had kind of like worked out a lot of that stuff to where I was a little bit more fluid with things and less rigid down stuff. But I really wish I could have started that trip fluid and already been in that place, because I think I could have accomplished a lot more on that trip that I was planning to do,
Yeah, it's interesting in my journey in riding. Like, I started very structured, very rigid, as you put it, and I realized I'm just blasting miles every day, and I was like, and some of it's just timing. I want to cover 10 states in 7 days. Well, you just balls to the wall for 7 days, and I did that, and I accomplished a lot of like goals of checking off states and putting miles in per day and on a trip. Cool. And a couple of years ago, I was like, no, fuck this. So I knew that I was going to leave St. Louis on whatever day. I knew I was going to hit your bike night here on a Tuesday night, and I gave myself a day and a half to get down here. Got ride through Broken Bow. Never had, loved it. Want to go back tomorrow if I could. And I knew that I needed to have lunch with some friends in Des Moines, Iowa on Saturday afternoon.
Damn.
And that's it. So
was that when you did the podcast with the dudes in Oklahoma, that trip?
No, that was last year. So the year before last. So I was here on Tuesday night, met Devin. You were up at Covington's working. So just missed you. So I headed north out of here, and my thought was, all right, Wednesday is just, I'm going to lay down a bunch of miles and hate I-35 for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I got up that morning. It was raining a little bit, so I laid around in the hotel room for an extra hour, let it blow by, because whatever.
Yeah.
And like, oh, there's this country singer I like, Aaron Vinecourt, playing in Lawrence, Kansas. Well, I'm going to go there tonight. So I went there, and I hung out with the band. I helped them load up their U-Haul.
That's cool.
And then I got up the next day, I was like, all right, hit the road and head north, and the wind just beat the shit out of me. I only did like 350 miles that day. And I was like, I don't care. That's cool. It's fine. I stopped in Omaha, took a picture of the bike in front of where they play the College World Series. Didn't know that my Tennessee Volunteers were going to win the World Series, a month later.
Nice.
Cool. Like little things like that. And then, looped around and hit the Dakotas, just into Minnesota, and spent the night. And then Friday and Saturday, had lunch in Des Moines with some friends, and then rode back. I was like, do I want to spend the night? No, I'm just going to ride back.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer for me. And not just riding, but just relaxing. Like, it's okay.
Mentally.
Mentally, like, it's okay. Things aren't going to go your way in life, riding a motorcycle, whatever. It happens. And I learned a lot on that. It was a lot. I'm glad that was a solo trip. I'm glad that I was able to be mindful enough to take that in and realize, hey, it's not just about riding. Like, you can relax a little more in life too, and letting go of things. And I even I compare it to step one of the 12-step programs. It's I'm going to butcher this, but basically accepting what you control and accepting you can't control everything else. Like, only what you can control, and it's under your power, and decisions you make is what you can control. And that really hit home for me on that trip, and it was great. And that's really set me mentally in a really good place the last couple of years.
Yeah, my buddy Tommy told me that he worded it as managing expectations.
Yes.
And over the course of, when I did the FXR tour originally and all the planning that went into it, you understand, planning, and I had sponsors for the event, and you're herding cats, and you have all this going on. And so in my head, I had this vision: if this goes down, it's going to work, and everybody's going to be happy.
Right.
Sponsors are happy, builders are happy, the dealerships, the people that attended are going to be happy. And when things go awry a little bit, to me, it's like, oh fuck, this is a bust, you know. And so after the trip, having conversations with Tommy, that used to run Cowboy Harley, you know, he told me that, and I've always kind of kept that in my mind. That's one thing about like changing like the way you think is like, it's not a switch. It's a gradual thing of reminding yourself and reminding yourself and reminding yourself.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, you don't just wake up one day and you're just like not an overthinker anymore, or not a controlling asshole. Like you have to wean it off a little bit. Or
you have to be intentional, right? So it starts with step one. Like you've got to be intentional and commit to doing that. But the biggest thing what I learned is giving yourself grace. You're gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
You're gonna make mistakes. And like I can't imagine planning the FXR tour. Like you were juggling more balls than I can,
and building a bike.
And building a bike. So, you know, something didn't go right. It's of course that's you know, I mean that Murphy's Law. It's not all of it's gonna go right. And it's hard to give yourself grace when you're a planner but what I learned about myself was going into something, I expected everything to go right because I planned it out. Yeah. Guess what? Karma's a bitch. You know, things are going to happen, right? So learn to give myself some grace has gone a long way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the new path, or the path that I've been on since 2023 doing that stuff, is just like really working on different aspects of like my mentality to, because the stress that comes from all that stuff is just like, it's ways, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It'll eat you alive.
Yeah, it literally would, and it did for a lot of ways. And I think it made me, in a lot of ways, not great to be around, you know?
Okay.
Because that stress has to get released onto certain people. Or it doesn't have to, but it did.
It ends up doing that.
Yeah, and it's usually the people you love the most, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, there's certainly, I look at, a parent's relationship with their kid, you know, especially in teenage years, man, it's a roller coaster, right? But I think that my daughter and I have a stronger relationship now because of me being in a better place mentally. And, you know, we had a big blow up last year, but we've gotten through that. And I don't know that we have gotten through it as well, or definitely not as quickly as we have in a healthy way, if it hadn't been for, you know, working on myself mentally, and that's with the help of a therapist. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it. I mean, we just, I've been seeing the same guy for 13 years. And so that's...
You're a good client for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting ready to retire. I think I know why. You know?
But go take all that baggage you gave him.
Yeah, well, he can't stay with me anymore, and I've paid him a lot of money. So
there you go.
I haven't paid his house off. But no, I mean, it takes work, and I'm not perfect at it, and I talk a lot. We talk a lot about Ryan. I talk a lot about this on the podcast, but it's because we want to share with folks like there's nothing wrong. There's no shame in, you know, working on your mental health and seeing a therapist. Taylor was big on that.
Yeah, when he talked about that on his podcast.
And man, that was such a fun podcast. And, especially when obviously it wasn't aired, when he would take a break and his microphone was turned way up and we could still hear him pee. But no, I give him a hard time. Sorry, Taylor. You know, I mean, he talked a lot about that and with himself and shared his journey.
Yeah,
and being
he had a pretty gnarly end of last year, you know, with a close friend of his passing away, with the life-changing thing of him getting out of the military.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his identity in a lot of ways, you know. You know, so and then going from San Diego to
Louisville,
you know, feet of snow, you know, like there's no way it wouldn't affect you mentally.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, when we were there in December and had a beer with him, and I was like, "How you doing?" He's like, "Man, it's a lot colder here than San Diego." Like, yeah, welcome, buddy.
As soon as the sun is shining at 70 degrees, he's already thriving and doing well there. But
for sure.
It's gonna be a good time watching that community, which already exists. But it's just gonna be a good time watching. Taylor's a great asset to things like that. You know.
Yeah, he's gonna be a good ringleader, so to say, for that.
And that's a thing that, like, I think the motorcycle scenes sometimes have a hard time with. Some of us are just better at building community.
Sure.
Right? Like a leader in that sense. Not saying a leader of men, but they're a leader of the ability to bring people together in a way, right? Yeah. And I see some people that are good at it, but they struggle with the people that maybe not want that, or they don't want to feel like they're following somebody or something like that. There's a lot of, I mean, obviously the motorcycle world is full of a lot of ranges of ego or machismo or,
And
you know,
just
whatever.
big personalities, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes I feel like communities have a hard time to grow because the dude that's trying to do the hard work of putting the bike night together and do all the stuff behind the scenes that happens, like we were talking about with the podcast, they do all that work so that this can exist, but yet they get a lot of backlash or maybe, for lack of a better term, hate from people that think that they're doing it for the you know, the pats on the back or the personal gain or whatever, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that you got to think beyond the end of your nose, right? And the people that don't get angry or maybe they're just jealous of that person who's really just trying to create, like you said, create community, bring people together.
I used to say, like, with the bike night, with the camp out, the things that we did, I just created the things I wanted to go do.
Yes.
And it was at the right time where a lot of other people wanted that shit too, right? But if I would have been surrounded by a lot of dudes that were like, oh, you know, like making it hell for me to do this thing to bring people together, it wouldn't, you know, the bike night would have never lasted. The camp out would have ended way earlier than it did.
Well, you created a platform.
Well, that's kind of what, you know, like the way we run T-Bar Tuesday is there's no business attached to it.
Right.
And we did that so that it, you know, I handed that off essentially to Trey years ago. And he runs the Instagram page now, you know? So there's like always this ability that this thing can exist, but it's not a place where you're going to buy a T-Bar Tuesday t-shirt. There's nobody profiting off of it.
Right.
It's just an information
Community.
page.
It's a community. But you created a platform, and you've also created a platform with this podcast. The difference is people are watching it and they're not together.
Yeah.
So it takes the personality piece out of it. And if people would, I think I shouldn't say that. This is going to sound bad. If people would listen to me, but you know, if you folks would take a approach from a 30,000 foot view of a bike night or putting together a bike night like T-Bar Tuesday or just a small get together, it's the same thing as putting a podcast together in that you're just trying to bring people together. Yeah. That's all you're trying to do at the end of the day, but you're just trying to bring them together in person. But again, people just can't get out of their own way, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, I mean, with the camp out it grew into a lot of work, and then trying to figure out a way to make some money to justify it got hard. You know, like we used to tell people, like Sandoval would every once in a while he would cut us like I think he cut us a check like the second year it was like $500, you know, and then it got to a point where it was like $2,000 at the height.
Okay.
So we're making $2,000, and all I did with that money was give it back to our group, and then we traveled on it, right? Because, you know, that was the whole deal. But like $2,000 to bring 1,500 people to an event, and not throwing shade at Sandoval, just saying.
Oh no.
For that to only be, and you know, his campground's going to make 50-something grand.
Right.
Like, and for me to want to put a $5 a head. And then I got a lot of backlash from that, you know. And it kind of like I should have just, you know, looked past it and just did it, and found a way to continue to keep the camp out going. But it to me it did kind of run its course in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Well, I've
just
never,
energy wise.
Sure. Well, I mean,
did you
mentally,
get to go?
No. Okay, so I was like, I'm gonna go, and it's ending. Shit. You know, I mean, it was a tough time of year for me.
Oh, yeah.
Fall's really tough with my daughter's sports schedule. Usually she's on 3 soccer teams and a volleyball team in the fall. So, I mean, I'm just an unpaid Uber driver is all I am. So, and I really hate to miss games. I really, really hate to miss, especially soccer games. I grew up playing soccer. I get to warm her up before every game still. And
there's definitely an aspect of that, you know what I mean, where you don't want to.
But back to the camp, I mean, I can't imagine, I've never put anything that big together. I can't imagine, I mean, what that's like. That's got to take a toll on you as well. And you get to a point in your life, and I always appreciate when you talked about, well, I need to be compensated at least a little bit for my time and effort into this. I agree. Like, I mean, I'm at a place in my life too. I want to be, you know, if I'm putting that much work into something, I want some kind of compensation or something. Yeah. Anything.
We did the t-shirt thing for a while, but that was stressful because you would take, you would put $3,000 to $4,000 up for shirts, and then it's like, okay, well, if it rains,
That's a gamble.
then this camp out just cost me $12,000 or $1,200.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or 2,000 or whatever else I don't sell.
Sure.
Or, like it would happen normally. Like, oh, well, this year we had a lot of mediums show up. Next year it's a lot of 4XLs show up, and you never know what size to get.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was just kind of like it just wasn't, I don't know. I mean,
and also you're not getting rich off t-shirts.
you're not getting
the
rich.
day.
That's the thing, is that like you're not getting rich doing podcasts. You're not.
Right.
You're realistically not getting rich doing anything in the motorcycle community. You're really not.
Right.
Even I have an intimate relationship, not intimate like sexually, but like I have a very close relationship with Mike and Grant from Born Free.
Sure.
And I know a lot of the things that inner workings of that event. They are making money for sure. They're not hiding that.
Right.
They ain't getting rich.
Right.
You know what I mean? To host an event the size it is, the insurance and this and that and porta potties and the things that you don't even think about
Right.
come into play. And then the other aspect, and this is where it got weird for our camp out, and where I see how they still struggle with this now, is like when it's just 40 of us sitting around a campfire, you're not looking to me to be entertained. When you have 1,500 people there that aren't necessarily of the mindset of our podcast listeners, they're like, yo, we're here. What do we do now? Like, oh, you go do whatever the hell you want.
Right. Yeah.
You go ride, or you camp, or you party, or you drink. Or there's some drugs over there if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's no itinerary here.
Right.
And when we started making itineraries, that's when it got really a lot of work. Like when we had the club style games and all the giveaways, we had to coordinate with all these brands to give away stuff. It got to be so much work and then you'd have these people show up, and then, just they weren't like the core people that were traveling the country, coming to, just do this, sleep in the dirt. It just, so many things changed.
Sure.
And it just made it not feel.
Well, yeah, those dynamics I'm sure changed a lot as it grew, right? Like you just get a lot more, you got a more diverse crowd, and it doesn't fit. Sounds like it didn't fit what you really envisioned for it to be.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that, and not to throw shade at anybody, but it just got to a point where a lot of people that, even like people from here, original folks, were starting to get not Airbnbs, but like campers.
Gotcha.
And so the campers were on a whole different side of the campground. And so it took away from this communal element that would take place around the fire. Now there's these individual parties at campers, and because they spend so much money on a camper, they wouldn't leave it.
Right. Sure.
And so it's not like a campsite where, like, from my parking lot to the end of the parking lot, there's another camp. Let's go see what they're doing, see if they got any beer left.
Right.
No, this camper's like down the street. Like it's a good walk, right?
Right.
And so it created a lot of these separations of things. And my thing was like, when you hear these amazing stories of these, one or two dudes left Boston and they met people here and there,
Sure.
and a convoy started, and they pulled up at the campground at 2 a.m. Like, I want them to be greeted by fire and beer and people doing what they're doing.
Or the guy swapping his motor out there, and someone drove pneumo or some parts from Arkansas, whatever it was. I've heard the story.
You want to find, you want to meet them with the same energy they just put in.
Oh, sure.
Not like, hey, thanks for traveling the country and going through all the weather issues. Sorry, there's a Mustang going by.
Yeah. It's definitely a Mustang.
All the hardships you had so that you can come watch us sit in campers and be comfortable.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the thing, And again, it's me overthinking everything.
Well, I mean, again, you get that, it grows that quickly, and you get that many people, then things are going to spread, right?
Yeah.
Like, people aren't going to, you're going to get different personalities. So you're going to have the guy in the camper, or the person who, actually drove their truck
and
there.
and like I said, like you said a while ago, and I was saying with you, is the managing expectations. Like,
right.
I can't expect everybody to come to the campground and do it the way that I want them to do it, right?
Right.
They're going to do it their way, and their way tends to go that direction. And that's kind of where I felt like, well, fuck. I mean, that just means it isn't what it used to be, and it's not fun for me anymore.
Right.
And so I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's like what I said about the podcast, right? I'll do this until it's not fun.
Yeah.
And, because I'm not making any money. You weren't making any money at the camp out. It's kind of the same principle, right?
Yeah.
Like, is the ROI personally there for you? And then that investment's just gratitude and mentality and just having fun, not necessarily money. So
yeah, it's in talking about the podcast, like I said, there's for sure like this pays it pays a portion of my livelihood.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And it has since probably 2022.
Okay.
Is when I would say that this podcast generated like something I would consider to be real money.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And in real money, I can't not work on the bikes and paint the bikes.
Right.
But this could pay the shop rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It made a difference.
Yeah, it paid a bill, basically.
Yeah.
And then it paid another one, and it got to a point where it was paying like a decent amount of bills, and you're like, fuck, man, like that's cool. And you kind of, then you have this other incentive to never stop or give up or
Sure.
whatever, because it becomes a viable part of like your ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
You probably might have heard me. I was really planning on shutting the shop down and definitely a Mustang. I was really going to go full force in trying a full-time podcast because in 2023 I could if I didn't have the shop.
Gotcha.
And at the time I had Covington, I had these other individuals that I would paint for that I didn't necessarily have to do it here.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, I can go travel around and do this podcast.
Yeah, and paint as well.
But not have to have this, couple grand a month, nut I have to get off of.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So then the economy went to shit.
Yeah, it's a different story. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you've been obviously doing the podcast thing much longer than I have. What is your thoughts on the podcast in the motorcycle community, the podcast world now compared to 3 years, 5, 7 years ago?
I think I've always said that you don't see a lot of consistency from people with podcasting. I think that it's one of those outside looking in, ignorant perspectives. It looks like a very easy thing. You're just talking. And you can always tell when someone does start a podcast and they're just talking because you feel like you didn't actually get anything out of this.
Yeah, what did I just listen to?
And not to say that I've had those recently. Every once in a while, maybe you're just having a good time and you're not paying attention to an agenda that you might have had or some kind of direction you wanted to take it. So they do slip. But I think the other thing is that people think you're going to get rich off of this. And so after they do 10 episodes and they realize that the consistency of showing up becomes difficult, you end up getting people coming and going a lot.
Sure.
And then they make a big stink. I'm bringing the podcast back, and they get a couple. Yeah, I loved it, and they do it for another 5 episodes.
Yeah.
See, there's a lot of the inconsistency that comes around, but
kind of like the old furniture store that's going out of business for the 10th time. Yeah,
perfect example.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't say that there's not like I've publicly supported almost everybody that's like podcasts that came out. Nowadays, a lot of the information is easier to obtain, but half of the ones that were video originally I helped them do that.
Okay.
2 Lane Life, Tucker Speed,
Sure.
LFG. A lot of these people, I would show them all the stuff because I spent all the money and did all the stuff the wrong way and figured out what worked, and then I would help them find the ways into it, right? So I've never been against like people doing it. I just think that it's my thing I would say to people is like, understand what you're doing it for. What is your point? What is your perspective? If so-and-so talks to you, what are you getting differently than if they were to talk to, the MotoState Podcast or mine or, Taylor's, right?
Sure.
It's to bring something unique to the table.
Sure.
Otherwise, like it is kind of a cesspool. It can become
it's a saturated market, man.
Yeah.
And with that, I think you can lose quality.
Yeah, you do
as
that.
a whole. Not talking about yours or mine, but as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, if your podcast is good and people enjoy it, then you're always going to have listeners, right?
Sure.
So it's not to say that because other people do piss poor podcasts, it's hurting my podcast, right?
Right.
Nothing like that. But I just think it's about being intentional with what you're doing. It's like maybe having a little bit more respect for the work that goes into doing podcasts, that it's not just, there is a percentage of us doing this right here where, 2 hours, whatever we end up being at, that this was 2 hours. You know for a fact it was 2 hours because that's what the podcast says on it, right?
Right, sure.
But there is a lot of back end work.
Yeah.
There is a lot of stuff that you have to figure out. There's a lot of things about consistency. And when it's not your full-time job, the people that are listening to it don't care if it is or not. Like, hey, you said you're going to put out a podcast every week. Where the fuck is it at?
Right.
You said you're going to do this. Where's it at? And that's one thing that I've been bad at, that I've tried to stop doing, is projecting things before I can actually know if I can pull it off or not.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Overpromise.
Yeah, it's like the intention is there and the goal and the planning is there, but there's so many things out of my power that I honestly couldn't actually stand behind this because I don't have I'm not controlling all the strings to make it work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think where that I would imagine is more challenging for you is because you're doing this. You have to have one of these. You have to have someone on the couch or at the table with you. You're not just doing that on your own, unless you're not doing a podcast just you. So that's
trust me, if I could figure out how to do that and not be so in my head about it, then I would love to, because I like when I listened to the podcast that you and Ryan did on influencers versus real writers, right? I literally had so much I wanted to say.
Well, come on.
To chime into that, right?
Yeah.
And it part of me, not in chime in a way like you're wrong, but like add to the conversation, right? And so part of me was like, man, that might be a good Patreon podcast for me to just write these thoughts down and talk about it.
Sure.
But the same way that like I'm still kind of learning how to do YouTube videos, like not learning how to do it in a way that I can manage the expectation, right? The hardest thing about podcasting for a lot of people is figuring out how to do it consistently. And so the same thing with making a YouTube video, I need to figure out how to do it consistently.
It's scalable, right?
Yeah. I have made a promise to myself and maybe a promise to people that I want to try to put 2 videos that are not podcasts out a month this year. And some months it's going to be easy to do 4, and this month it's hard. I don't even know if I'll be able to do 1.
Sure.
Right? Just workload, and because that's a content piece right there that I'm waiting on parts, and then there's a content piece over there and whatever. But it's just like the consistency of things is like really, when it comes to content, social media, YouTube, all this podcast, it's just about being consistent. Yeah. Because your audience wants to know that every week you're going to show up with something else for them. Yep. And that's how you build all that stuff. Forgot where you had asked me about on that.
Well, just, your thoughts around, just where motorcycle community podcasts are now compared to 5-7 years ago. And there's definitely a lot more. I mean, everyone's got one now. To your point, not everyone's consistent.
I've always felt like all brands at some point were going to have some form of podcast within their brand. Yeah. And it makes sense to do that. Builtwell has one. I was on their podcast recently. Otto's a great dude.
Fuel Moto just started one.
Oh, they did? Nice.
I think it's more like talking about their product. And like not analytics. I'm sorry, we were talking about analytics, but just talking about the numbers behind it and more of the.
Now, a podcast like that, I could see them hitting a wall where, okay, now you've really laid out all this stuff, but how do you continue to have something to talk about?
What I do appreciate though, they're keeping them like 20 minutes long. Yeah. And so, which you got to, you're gonna. I'll nerd out on that stuff, but after 20, 25 minutes, I've got bandwidth just like everyone else.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think that's maybe a good, like what you brought up is probably a good way to kind of describe the way podcasts have gone from where most of us were doing them in the Joe Rogan format, where it's like, hey, we're sitting down and I'm not cutting this off until I feel like we're done. Right. And attention span since the beginning of our podcast versus now is much different, where I can't tell you that if I do a podcast that's an hour and 20 minutes versus a 3-hour one, that one gets more. I really don't know that. Okay. Because most of mine, it either works or it doesn't. Okay. Or it either hits real hard and I have a 4-hour podcast that literally will have 100,000 views, or I'll have an hour and 20 minutes where the dude has 100,000 views. Right. Sure. So it's like there's no rhyme or reason. Yeah. But when it comes to brand stuff, and I think that like Revzilla does this because they have a podcast,
Right.
and it's always been high in the charts, but it's really just information about products that they're putting out or that they sell.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like it sucks that it's in this category of podcast for analytically for like us to like be able to leverage to brands of whatever the numbers that they all want to know, because it is in audio form of podcast because you can listen to it through your headphones.
Yeah.
But it's not really the format of what I would say a traditional podcast would be about.
Sure.
Because if you're going to talk about, the Kuriak and floorboards, when you think of a podcast, I don't really want a product explanation of it. I thought you were going to have Kuriakin on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you're basically just giving me a long-winded sales pitch of this product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially like floorboards. I mean,
yeah,
it's floorboards, right?
Exactly. Like
if you want to talk about I guess here's fuel mildew, right? Let's talk about a cam and let's talk about that.
Well, that's information that like I think that a lot of us would want to know. And if you could argue that maybe that could be a YouTube video if it's 20 minutes long.
Sure.
But
and maybe they have video.
It's a video. They also take the audio out and throw it in the audio or into a podcast form.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I'm just curious your take because I mean, for me, I went into Ryan and I went into this, and he's been in the podcast world for almost about as long as you, and I'm obviously new to it. But for me, it was really important to go into this and take it. I mean, we're having fun, but we take it serious. We're going to put an episode out every week. It's going to be what we feel is quality content.
Yeah.
Out of respect to people that have been doing it a long time. I don't look at this as just haha, look at dick jokes and whatever. Like I want something serious. So, but I agree with you. There's a lot out there that the 10 episodes kind of is like the magic number. Like if you can get past 10 consistently, you're probably going to do okay. But it's usually 10 where they fall off.
Yeah, I mean Jeff Holt. I saw him at Parts and Labor at the beginning of the year, and he told me, "Hey, I'm finally getting my podcast out." He's like, I got 10 episodes recorded. I'm like, dude, just do them and put them out. Like when you, in my opinion, when you build a cachet up, it's good when you have to travel, like we were talking about earlier. And I need to put out some episodes, so I have like 4 recorded and ready to release. But like, dude, just recording podcasts over the course of a year and then storing them, like some of this stuff is time sensitive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like if this was strictly about your origin story, where you came from, and how you got into motorcycles, and that's all we really talked about, then that podcast can sit on a shelf for as long as it needs to before it comes out, because we're not talking about the Easy Rider stuff or the new Harleys that came out.
Mama tried.
Mama tried. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
But when you shelve those things that are kind of, which in a podcast you will have perspectives on current events a lot of times.
For sure.
Yeah,
we try to keep 2 in the bank, and they are generic in that they're not time sensitive, to your point.
Yeah.
So, because we both have full-time jobs, we're parents, life happens. I'm on the road, he's on the road, whatever. So there's some weeks we can't record. So that's going to happen Monday. It's probably one we recorded first week of January, and we haven't released yet because I'm on the road this part of the week, and then Mama tried it, Thursday through Sunday. So what do you do?
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But again, like staying the course is, I think, the goal. And I mean, honestly, the same thing is you never know who's following you. You never know who's listening to your podcast.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I've been reached out from people before. I'm like, holy shit, like that's cool that you listen to it, or you know who I am, or whatever. It's always surreal. But I mean, the thing is that like when I started doing the podcast, not to be a hypocrite, I was no different than the guys that I'm talking about that's just shooting the shit in the garage with no agenda. I thought I had an agenda, but compared to the agenda that I try to carry today, it's night and day. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Well, you've learned, right?
Yeah,
you've evolved.
learned. Yeah.
And I mean, we got started off a great foot, but that's because Ryan's experience. Thank God, right?
Yeah.
When I approached Ryan with this idea, 5 Dirty Bikers had recently ended, and I was like, I understand if you need some time. That was a big part of your life for 7 years. And you gotta give me some time. But I told him, I was like, I need someone that knows how to do this. I said, but I want them to also teach me. Like, I'm not just trying to ride coattails here.
Yeah.
And Ryan's taught me a lot of things, and he's like, well, we ought to consider this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. Like he was like, give me some time to think about it. So I backed off, and about a month later, I circled back around, and we had a couple conversations because we had met before, but only once. We've only met once in person.
For real?
Yeah, and so we get to hang out in Mama Tried this week.
That's cool.
So yeah, it'll be fun. But it's funny. He started talking. Well, have you thought about this? What about this? Well, I was thinking this, and we had conversation, and this went on for like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and finally I was like, hey man, sounds like you're interested. He's like, yeah, I guess I am. And the rest is history. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope I'm not coming across to anyone that I'm no expert at this, and I'm not making fun of folks that are just starting, because 8 months ago that was me. That was us starting. I'm just curious your take on it. And
yeah, I would just say to make it short and sweet, just have a perspective, a unique one. Mm-hmm. If you aren't in the industry, you don't have anything, then be the perspective of, I'm the new rider and I'm here to ask questions. I'm a student.
Yeah.
Or just find a way to where like there's a perspective that makes sense as to why people should listen to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No,
and that's kind of, I think my perspective of it was, I'm been a part of the industry. I have access to these people.
Yeah.
I'm already doing essentially podcasts with them all the time.
Right.
Might as well put the microphone on.
We're having these conversations, right? Turn the camera on.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes from like, not a lot of structure, but substance.
Sure.
Like I will say that if you can get over like a lot of my follies in my speech, whether it's, me saying like or here's the deal or whatever comfort word I've chosen for that time. And there's a lot of great substance in a lot of the episodes that we've put out over the last, 8 years now. And, and I try to be mindful of that going forward now, is that like I want these to always have value of some sort in it.
Sure.
And so I need to make sure that as much as I would like to just get fucked up and drink and party and tell dick jokes, because sometimes when you're in those upstairs in the studio and
sure.
Time, it's Vegas. You don't know what time it is, and you're like, oh shit, we just did 6 hours.
No windows, no clock. Yeah, like what the hell?
And a lot of the times those podcasts never get released, but nobody walks out here and goes, oh man, we're not gonna put that out. They all go, that was fucking fun.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's what I really appreciate about your podcast. Like everyone has a good time. It's whether, and I'm not saying getting fucked up or whatever, but just the conversation's always good. There's a lot of quality there with it.
Not to make this about my podcast, but the other thing I try to think of it of is that there's a lot of, with the body of work that's out there, not that anybody's gonna go back and listen to each one. There's no way I could ever. I tried to do that with Rogan when he first came out, and I think when I started listening to Rogan, it was like 800.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I'm gonna go back and listen to each one. I was like, that ain't happening. Right? To those
lot.
out there that I appreciate that. I thank you. But I want people to know that like the same, it's like an album, like a musician. There's gonna be this time you got this type of music, and then it evolves into this. And our podcast is that way. There's an era when it was like FXR Mike and T-Bar Jesus, and they were on all the time, and those were my go-tos. And then there was the Fast Life crew with James, Cody, and Dragon and all them. And then there was the Devin, and then, and who knows what it's going to be now,
Sure. Yeah.
But it's just an evolution of it, and there's not that anyone's better or worse or bad or whatever. It's just, man, to be a part of it at that time, how awesome would it
yeah.
be,
It's funny. 2 things will go back. One, that, you talked about how, you want quality, and people look back on there. They go back to some old episodes that they get something from it. And Ryan's always his approach to it was, and he has a YouTube channel, and he's like, I want to leave a legacy, for my kids, my grandkids, my grandkids' kids. Like when I'm not around, hey, my great grandpa was pretty cool back in the day.
Yeah,
and this may seem goofy then, but hopefully they understand that those cool thing he was doing, you're doing.
Yeah.
In the future, it was cool now. And so I've always appreciated that approach and never thought about it, but it's like, yeah, I guess one day,
when Jerry Covington passed away, his wife asked me to send a direct link to the podcast because she wanted to hear his voice. the same thing happened with the family from Bassani, you know? So it's like, there's an aspect of it, you know, where you've spoken to someone that did something crazy, you know, not crazy, but like did something impactful in the industry, but their family now has this thing they can listen to, right?
Yeah.
And when my grandfather passed away in 19, I remember, because I was already deep into doing the podcast, and I was like, man, I should sit down and just do a pod. I was so scared to do it. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to like hold it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but you know, those kind of aspects of it, that's a unique part of it where it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the people that might.
No,
you know.
and I, you know, like when Ryan said that, hearing you say that, share your story. Like, I have a VHS tape of when I was like 3 or 4, and it's me and my grandpa hanging out. One of my grandpas. It's like, I covet that thing. Like, man, you know, it's in a safe. Like, it's, you know, I need to get it, switch over to like CD-ROM or whatever it is now, or I guess I'm old. Yeah, thumb drive. Sorry, I'm old. But you know, I mean, and I like every time that plays, it's like chills. And I'm sure those families felt the same way. I mean, there's something there, and I just never thought of it that way.
You know, and you know that's kind of what I was talking about with FXR division before you walked in. Is it, you know, advertising is what allows all this shit to exist. Outside of, you know, this can exist for free. Like, you know, we can spend the money to go buy the video equipment to make the YouTube, all that stuff, and just put it out there, right? So there is that. It doesn't mean that we have to get paid or there has to be a financial compensation, but it does become a lot of work, as we've kind of talked about. And the thing is, like, everything exists because of advertising. Like, Born Free exists because people advertise their sponsors. That's how that show exists. Without all that stuff, you know, and of course, like, they've grown it to that point where they have the ticket sales and they can justify and build this whole thing, right? But you still need advertisers. Magazines need advertisers. TV needs advertising. That's how TV exists. You know, without Paramount selling advertisement slots, they don't have a studio to make movies. Right? So advertising is literally the financial way that all the arts exist. You know, you can make music for free, but the radio is only going to put it on if there's an advertisement paying for the radio to exist. Spotify is only going to put it on if there's an advertisement for it to exist. So in a way, a lot of creative things are funded by advertising. Right? And so it is kind of like, it's becoming a weird world. And this kind of ties back into the conversation that you and Ryan were having on y'all's podcast about influencers and shit like that, where, you know, not to go completely and make this all about that, but like, it made me think about my path in this space, right? Like, I grew up painting and doing these bikes. You know, every once in a while, a brand would hit you up and be like, hey, you want to run my air cleaner? It was very rare, right? Because I was never a big builder in that space where, you know, guys like Billy Lane and stuff would get SMS with, hey, what are you building? We want to make sure that you're building with our motors.
Hey, here's a motor. Here's 2 motors.
You know, Baker, same thing. They wanted it on those big name bikers like they've always existed. And it's just that the medium has changed to where it's now, it's a blockhead more than it's a Billy Lane. You know, because there's a trackable thing because of analytics now, which back then, like, you didn't know. Like, you didn't know, you spend $10,000 to get the back page of a magazine and had no idea what.
It's all tangible now. It can be tracked. It's wild.
Well, what happens is, I guess where I was trying to get with it is like, well, now that all of this marketing, like, I don't know that they realized it, like that $10,000 for that magazine is how information was shared in our worlds. That's how we got all that, right? That $10,000 sponsorship at the Buffalo Chip was how we had the show to where we built the bikes to take it to the show so it could be seen. Like, it's like an economy, if you will, right? So yeah, they want a return on investment, but essentially they're also helping fund the existence of the culture they're trying to market to. Right? Well, now, what happened with social media in a super quick blanketed generalization is in 2016, when influencing really became a thing that started happening within the motorcycle world, there was already people that were already a decent height of things, like YouTubers, like Adam Sandoval, things like that already existed.
Sure.
I never got anything for free until after I started my podcast. And you guys eloquently did it in y'all's podcast. None of this shit's for free. It's some type of work that you're doing to get it. But did I physically give you $20 for that part? No.
Correct.
Right. And so there's this economy that was created because of advertising and social media. They created the influencer, not the influencer came around.
Right.
Right. It's more like, hey, we see that you have an audience. We would like for you to run our part. And I remember the first time someone said, hey, will you run this? And how much do you want to run it? I'm like, whoa, what? You're giving it to me and you're going to pay me to do it?
Is this real?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm used to I only get paid whenever that thing goes from black to brown, or vice versa.
Right.
So I've said it on this podcast so much that I don't trust this money because it's not the way I've ever made money. Sure. And I feel like it can go away like that. And it did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what happened is all these influencers and podcasts and YouTube channels started to get monetized through, trust me, the YouTube monetization for our world is dog shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was times where like guys like Blockhead and Cruzy and them were making good money, but they changed the algorithm and next thing you know, it goes from you making 10 grand a month to making $2,000 a month, unless you play the new game, right? Well, now because of the influencer economy growing to what it is, and now Facebook and the whole meta thing is like, hey, screw that. You have 20,000 people. Just give us $1,000 a month, and we'll make sure that everybody sees this. And so now that money does not go into the motorcycle community at all.
Right.
That's $1,000 that now goes into Meta.
Yep.
That doesn't do anything for bike shows, podcasts. It doesn't create anything that you can actually consume or better this community.
Yep.
But they sold more air cleaners.
Yep.
Right. And if our culture as motorcycling continues down that path and it only goes to where you don't realize that some of this money is keeping culture alive, then you're gonna have a cultureless thing that doesn't, there's no Mama Trieds, there's no things like that.
Lose its identity.
Yeah, because how are you gonna track what you're gonna get at Mama Tried if you go sponsor that event?
Yeah.
Oh, there's this many door swings that came in there, but that doesn't mean shit compared to like how many people bought your shit.
Right.
No,
I agree. I think, back, you talked about, influencers became a thing in 2016, and that sounds about right. I think, people talk, oh, there wasn't influencers before 2016. Well, yeah, there was.
It was
there absolutely. It just looked way different.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that Michael Jordan was wearing Nike or wearing Jordans or drinking Gatorade or whatever.
It's always existed, right? But so it goes back to what I was saying about guys like Billy Lane before, right? They were on this pedestal from these things they had built. So we kind of associated that with like, if I ever want to get to that level, I got to bust my ass and become this creative in some kind of way. Well, when the things changed and it became about like just making good posts on social media, and trust me, there's work that goes into that, whether you pick up a camera, like personality, all these things kind of come into it. But before, you could just have no personality and make good work, and the economy of custom motorcycles or tools or whatever wanted you to work with your tools and your products. Therefore, you didn't have to have you didn't have to be a Ryan Cruzy on camera, right?
Right.
You could just be a mute that fucking makes badass stuff or whatever, and next thing you know, like you're at the top. So that, for me in my world, that was a big change because all the places I wanted to be in the custom paint world, that changed.
Okay.
Where I wanted to be the best and baddest to be able to be in all these magazines and teach and do all this stuff. And then that kind of changed. The magazines went away. The companies that wanted to, like the Iwatas and Setas and these companies, like you had to be a paint nerd. Like you couldn't be like me and be more of a motorcyclist that paints. You had to be a painter only. And so it kind of like cut off the ability. From whenever I grew up, I saw guys like Hot Dog and people that worked at like Boyd Cuttington and stuff that were like, they were hot rod guys or bike guys, but they also were painters and they got supported by the industries that they were in. Sure. Yeah, I get nothing in the paint world. Really? I don't get dick.
But
I get metal flake. Thank you, Paint Hover. Appreciate it.
Are there painters out there that get
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know that world.
And I'm not saying that to woe is me. I don't play that game, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I don't play the paint game the way that I would need to play it to be valid in that world, which that's a choice I made, not a choice they made, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's an speaking in my perspective in the motorcycle community, it's an interesting world we're in now where you have influencers who are hawking parts that maybe don't know how to even install that part, or they're not actual bike builders, but they bolt on parts. And I'm not saying one's right or wrong. Listen, you do your thing, I'm going to do mine. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting world we're in now. And granted, back in the day, I'm sure you had folks that were pushing some kind of product that they've never used in their life. I mean, there's always been that aspect of it. But in the motorcycle community, I guess I come from, my mindset is just like, if you're hawking parts, you know a little bit about them. I hope you know a little bit about them. I feel like that's a general expectation in this community. I could be wrong, but it's certainly my expectation.
yeah. There's two tangents we can kind of go off of that, because for let's just say a company that I'm very near and dear with, Arlen S., it makes sense for them to give or to partner with a large YouTube channel, even if they're not builders or installer savvy.
Sure.
To get them to showcase their product on the thing. You're going to get probably eyes on your products, but that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So the one hypothetical that I feel like could happen, most of custom motorcycles has moved to bolt on. There's very little things that you have to do that are like skill based within doing a custom bagger, right?
Sure.
There is motor work, there is suspension tuning, things like that. So there is still layers, but there's not really a fabrication element to it. Most of the designs, most of the things that are being made to really bolt on, click together, very, do it in your garage, right? And that makes that's important to have that, because it creates a bigger economy for this all to kind of go, because now there's no added layer of barrier of entry. Like, you don't have to find a unique specialist to put this on.
It's the gateway drug.
It is.
to doing more stuff.
This is the law of this, the law of attraction, if you will, is if everybody has it and everybody can have it, it's not cool anymore.
Sure. It'll run its course.
What I've seen happen is a lot of the communities in which I've been a part of for the last 10 years, 20 years actually, in the custom motorcycle industry, they've gone from the baggers to the FXRs and now the choppers to these things that are harder to have.
They want to be challenged.
They want to be challenged, but yes, 100%. That's what it boils down to, is you want a challenge, and most people can't just buy an FXR. Right. I mean, you can buy one, but you can't maintain it. You can't keep it on the road. You don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But as the Road Glide, you can buy that. You can finance it.
Got a warranty.
Got a warranty.
Yeah.
If that light comes on, you take it to the dealership. You know what I mean?
Well, that's me. That was me.
Yeah.
2021. Bought my Street Glide, right? And I didn't know shit. And I'm still learning. I got a lot to learn. I have an FXR, but I won it in a raffle, right? So I talk about learning how to work on motorcycles. Yeah. I mean, Chris helps me a lot, and Mikey Nine Figure helps me a lot, and I mean, they're doing a lot of work, but they're also showing me things, and I want to learn. I want to do it. But to your point, you're exactly right.
Well, what I was saying is more of a hypothetical thing. Like, I wonder if, because that's typically what happens, is more the tastemakers, which for everybody out there listening, there's tastemakers and everything. It's not that certain people within the motorcycle world are objectively out there trying to be a tastemaker. It's just they're following their heart and what they're interested in, and where they're kind of where they're just drawn to, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, like myself included, and this is why I can kind of attest to it, is that I've been doing the custom motorcycle thing for a long time, but I found myself like the big wheel bagger thing, there was more fabrication that went into that than on the performance bagger, right? But then the performance bagger solved a lot more problems because it was a much more user-friendly motorcycle as a final product, right?
Yeah.
The FXRs made me have to learn a little bit more about motorcycling, like maintaining things, like tuning it, like aligning things. Like it didn't just click together like Legos, right? The chopper was a whole nother world, and it opened up a can of worms in my world of wanting to learn these skills that aren't really valid for the bagger world. But man, it feels really cool to make this thing that nobody else has.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I think what I wonder is if there's going to be like this shift where a lot more, which I feel like is happening, but it's more happening behind the scenes, of a lot of people going towards more custom handmade bikes than
Could be
off the showroom kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
I think you're already seeing that in some small way at least. I think not that the chopper scene ever went away, but it felt it's going to ebb and flow.
I think it's more appealing right now to people that it never was before.
Yes, yeah. Or people like me in my journey where, and you too, right? Like where, although you've customized bikes, but you really want to take it a step further, right? And be challenged more, learn more. And that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not ready to get a welder out, but I want to learn how to, like what you're doing, I want to learn how to tear apart the primary and what I'm looking at and what to look for. I want to learn that. That's where I'm at in my journey. So, and then there'll always be those people that they're going to buy the new bagger every 4 or 5 years or Softail or whatever because they want the warranty. That's fine too. Like, go for it, man. That's going to keep it's going to keep the motor company in business.
100%. And that's kind of where there is the custom motorcycle industry is a section of motorcycling.
Oh yeah.
It is not the thing. It is not the only thing. When I started meeting all the damn Hoka Hey guys and the Chris Hoppers and the Iceman and I was like, oh my God, like that's insane. Like the amount of miles these dudes do and there's a part of that that's like kind of like, man, I don't know if I'm ready for that, but there's a part of me that might be a challenge that I want to like jump into at some point in my life. The Hoka Hey sounds super interesting.
It does.
You know what I mean?
That's wild. Like that's a whole. And talk about customization, completely different than what you and I are used to, right?
They're customizing.
They look like they're on a fucking spaceship.
Yeah, man. They're retrofitting a bike to do something just insanely different than what we do.
The tanks, they got like 14 iPads on it. I don't know what's going on, man. It looks like Star Trek or something, man. I don't know. It's wild. And I'm not making fun of it. It's awesome. It's really cool.
But there's just all these different worlds of it, right? And so that's, maybe calling back to the podcast question.
Yeah.
There's a perspective there that I'm sure there has to be somebody that has a podcast that's really, I think there is actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they use a road mile marker for each one of their episodes.
Oh, oh my gosh, we were on it, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna forget, but yes.
And I think they kind of tackle a lot of that kind of ultra travel stuff on theirs. Maybe I could be wrong.
Yes, he does. Yes.
So you have someone that's a perspective.
Yeah, he does that. He's one of those mile crushers.
Yeah.
Man, and good for them. That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad it exists because it gives people like so many different, I don't know, like worlds to learn about. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's another part of the community that you want to learn about, right? There's the chopper scene. Now you got the mile crushing scene, and it's like, man, that's just a whole nother ball game. Like to do 100,000 miles in 100 days.
Yeah, I used to kind of really like boast and brag about like my little 30,000 a year kind of thing. And then it's like I sat down and did the podcast with Chris Hopper years ago, and I'm like, man, you did like 4 of my years of riding in 100 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like there's
what you did in a year, you did in a month. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
And then who's the guy that did? Was it 100?
Yeah, I think they just broke the record.
Yeah.
And Chris was going to go on it and do it with him or something like that. But 140,000 miles in 140 days, I think is what it was.
Something 120, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think the goal was 140, and it ended up being like a little bit less or something like that.
Man, good for him, dude. That's
to me, that's a lot of cool stuff in the motorcycle world.
Yeah, and they're raising money, right? Hopper, he's 100 miles, 100 days, $100,000. He raised $120,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Good on him, man. Like that's also lost in the grand scheme of things of all this, like how much money the motorcycle community as a whole raises for various charities.
Yeah.
And That's what I knew when my uncle was alive and he rode. They did a big toy run every year, and they raised other money throughout the year, but it was all about kids, and that was.
I think about that a lot. I wonder if like maybe versions of like people in my generation of like, because I think you're a Gen X.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial, but like I'm like the first year millennial, so I think both of us are kind of in this bridge thing where we're a little bit of both, right? Because you kind of grew up with, computers and emails the same way that I did, but also got to have an analog childhood in a way, right? I wonder if like, because most of like my view of charitable things has been the bad side of it, the corruption of things. Okay. Like I've watched toy runs here turn into like shit shows, right?
Gotcha.
But I've also done like the hood toy runs where like we all would ride to like it's more put on by like the black motorcycle set, minority set. Like we would ride to like a impoverished part of town and literally hand toys to kids.
That's awesome.
Like no middleman, let's get a big teddy bear and strap it to our bike. That no kid fucking wants a teddy bear this big.
That's right, yeah. That's cool for 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool for you on your ride and, all this stuff. But like when you hand the kids the stuff or you see that, like that was impactful.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes the charity stuff, I feel like my personal side of it is I don't trust it,
Gotcha.
And I can't tell you how many charities have reached out to the podcast to try to be on in the last 8 years that have turned out to be bullshit.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I've just stayed away from it.
Yeah.
Like, not that I don't believe in charity stuff, but there's been a lot of charities that has tried, and I could send you emails like, oh yeah, that one didn't pan out too well, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's just easier to stay away from it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are military based. Like they're some dude that never actually served or whatever, and it's like somehow they got PTSD.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good charities out there, but there's it could be a lot of fraud in that. I mean, where there's money to be made, someone's gonna.
Well, it's like the traditional poker run stuff would used to raise money for things like that.
Absolutely.
So I think it's cool when it's like local and communal.
Yes.
Like you can see, like we're gonna do this run to do this for that organization right there, or this school, or this,
it's in your
like
backyard.
That.
You drive by it once a week or every day or whatever. That goes a long way for sure. Because you see the orphan's home or the old person's home or the food pantry or whatever. Yeah, that makes a big impact.
You heard of the FDR Foundation thing?
Yes.
So that's one that I know him pretty well. Okay. And I think that I've already asked him if he wanted to be on, because that's like giving back to downed riders.
Absolutely.
People that's, whatever. And to me, that one feels like more like close to home, as opposed to, here's $100,000 and then it goes through this system, and then the person on the other end, got 10% of it.
Yeah,
or whatever the case
it's hard to like, and I'm not. Actually, I won't name any certain, but these large, massive charities, and the CEOs clearing $3 million a year, and it's like that just doesn't that doesn't pass the smell test for me, like from a charity standpoint. So I don't know. That's just me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just feel like a lot of me growing up, I'm exposed to a lot of the fraud in this stuff, and it kind of pushes me away from not being charitable, but like wanting my charity to feel more hand over fist.
You're naturally jaded. That from what you've seen. That makes sense. So influencers and real riders, did you get out all you wanted to say on that? I feel like you were.
I mean, I definitely have lots of cans of worms. I just, I don't have like statements prepared, so I don't really know.
No, all good.
I think what sucks about like the gripe that people have for air quotes influencers is rightfully there. But I think that it'd be nice if they could understand how and where it came from. I've been saying this on the podcast for years. What came first, the rider or the influencer? So when you're someone that loves motorcycles and you're doing stuff, and then you pick up a camera and you want to share it with somebody, versus I've watched so many people come into this community or in this world completely here just to exploit it. Like,
Sure.
they were never, the day you picked up your bike is the day you picked up a camera. Like, and like I said, that's a Blockhead thing. And I'm not trying to talk shit about Blockhead because I feel like he's grown into being a real biker.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But there's a lot of people that grow into just like, you know.
Well, their goal doesn't feel genuine, right?
Yeah.
Probably not genuine.
Well, and we're oversold things right now, right?
Oh,
Everything's
sure.
an ad.
Yeah.
And so you get annoyed because you feel like you're being sold something, but to throw a little like shade back to the audience, stop consuming it.
Yes.
You know, like
You do have the power as the
we're
consumer.
like we're doing a podcast right now. I have advertisements on this podcast. That's how this thing exists.
Right.
I hope if you find value in these companies or products that you take a chance with it. But this conversation isn't selling you shit.
No.
You know, and that's kind of the thing that it sucks when you get like lumped into that kind of world of like you're an influencer. If you say you have a podcast, you automatically get dubbed an influencer.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between when people were watching more traditional TV commercials and what you're seeing now from influencers too, because that's how people are consuming. Instead of TV time, there's a lot more people watching YouTube and just doom scrolling or whatever on social media.
But the algorithms on all these platforms, like anytime we've had a podcast where there's a brand that has something for sale, like that's popular, through the roof.
Sure.
Speed dealer swing arms, right? Bam, through the roof.
Yep.
You know, those kind of things, you know, do well. And if you watch a lot of YouTube like content of like how to like get it to grow to be something profitable to justify the amount of time it goes into it, then you gotta have to do all this stuff. You kind of need to have a product, a T-shirt, and all this stuff. And so you got to sell something. You know what I mean? And it's like that's how this stuff exists. And trust me, like part of me wants to run away and just go back to being a nobody and just painting the bikes and building the bikes and doing that stuff.
Sure.
But then there's a part of me that like, you know, you meet guys like you and Sheldon and all these other people I've met through listening to the podcast that I consider friends and I think it's cool as hell.
Yeah.
That wouldn't exist without doing this stuff. So, and you know, like I said earlier, I mean, this thing has been a part of my income, how I live for the last, 5 years now, 4 years. So if it went away tomorrow, I'd be fucked, right?
Sure.
And that's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't like giving that much power away to something that like if I have your bike here and you owe me money to finish it, like I'll finish this job, bam, I get paid.
Yeah.
I go record 10 podcasts and then all the sponsors pull. YouTube decides I'm demonetized, like I don't meet the new guidelines. Bam, no money, period.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's gone. And then it's like.
But also you do this because you enjoy doing it, right?
Oh yeah, I do enjoy doing it. Yeah,
for sure. I just don't want that to be lost. I'm sure with your viewers and listeners it's not.
Yeah,
but
I mean.
To be clear, you enjoy doing it, but it also has become.
I enjoy riding motorcycles too.
Right.
But
I'm saying this has become, but your love for it and passion about it has grown it to where it's at now. And because of that, you're making money from it as well. Yeah. That's
Trust
natural
me,
evolution.
There's no, when I say there's no generalization, there's probably somebody. None of these channels that exist that people consume would exist if they weren't making money.
Sure.
And let's just be real. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
Rogan's not going to do a podcast if he's not making money. It doesn't make sense to do anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Adam Sandoval is not going to make any more YouTube videos if he can't get paid to make YouTube videos. Thrashin is not going to do any more YouTube videos if the YouTube is not being a beneficial place for them to make YouTube videos.
For sure.
Right? So getting over that part of like people doing anything for money, like that's just how this world works, right?
Yeah.
What sucks is we're doing it on the back of what people's hobbies are.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the disdain comes from. Is it like, why should I, I've had someone tell me that. Why would I support your Patreon when you're doing what I want to do? So it's like, I consume your content and I like it, but I'm not going to support you financially because you're doing what I want to do.
What a terrible place to be mentally. I feel sorry.
True for that, but also like think about like that. I've heard that on multiple occasions in the last 7 years. People come up, hey man, I like all this stuff. I just, like they give you a reason why they don't want to support you financially. You know what I mean? Or they think that like, you're rich, and
Sure.
Unfortunately, for me at least, I've been on Facebook for this entire existence. So I've seen what it looks like when you put too much of your business out there, right?
Sure.
And I'm not one that wants to put all of the ups and downs of my business out there and try to get sympathy follows and sympathy subscribers and like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But these motorcycles and stuff like this is all a lot of work and a lot of time, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with that. It's just kind of like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm not rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At all.
I'm so surprised you've heard that from so many people. I guess my mentality is completely different. Like, good for you. You're getting to do what I wish I could do. I mean, I just look at that should let that inspire you to go do that full time. But I guess not everyone obviously doesn't have that same mentality.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think a lot of this stuff has gotten more prevalent in my mind because of the Harley partnership stuff.
Sure.
Is it that I've never felt more imposter syndrome than now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because when I see this opportunity to work with Harley, I also know Sandoval and Blockhead and Her Two Wheels and Thrashing, and I don't feel like I'm anywhere on those levels to be there, right? I know I'm in my own unique place and I do things the way I do it, but like, I mean, it's impossible not to see who your peers are in that space when you get into that space and be like, wow, how the fuck did I get here? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you how you got here. You've talked about it on this episode. Like you've worked your ass off. Well, I mean, that's how you got that bike. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. But like, you've worked your ass off for a long time. Look how many people you've helped get to where they're at now. Like you talked about helping Two Lane Life and all those folks. Like, hey, let me show you the mistakes I made, so you don't make them. So, I mean, give yourself some grace, but also give yourself some credit. Like, I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I'm not trying to make this like a woe is me situation.
No,
you know what I mean? It's just kind of it's really weird, like once things that you kind of wished or dreamed of happening happen, there is like it is weird. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And like I said, at first it felt natural, but then, I don't know, it just... Time is the only thing that's going to make it feel more normal, I think. And I mean, like I said, there's lots of little parts of my life that's been that way. When I first had any success with paint, it felt very like, how did I don't deserve this, like, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just kind of a weird place to be.
Well, I would encourage you to enjoy it and accept it for what it is. Because, I mean, what you're experiencing and getting to do, a lot of people, including myself, wish that I could be in that spot, that I had that knowledge and I had the ability to not be in banking and do more of like what you do. I'd love to do that.
I'd trade your careers in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, dude. It's so, like I said, because I don't want to be out there putting, I feel very blessed to have the skills that I've acquired over the years.
Sure.
But man, the older you get, the more health insurance and those things that, let's be real, like if I didn't have these bikes, I could probably have health insurance. But I spent money last year building this bike because I thought I needed to do that to stay relevant in this, whether it's this space, YouTube, or bike building, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So this is either going to be the death of me in one way or the other. You know what I mean?
There's your health insurance.
Yeah. So I don't want to sound like, I don't make enough money to do all that stuff. It's that like when you get money, it's like you're always reinvesting in things. At least that's what I feel like I need to do.
Sure.
But I don't know. I'm also like, I'm a this guy. I'm not a banker, financial planner. I'm more like, oh, well, I'm going to spend all my money on this, and then I'm just going to bust my ass to get those things done.
Yeah.
And hopefully some more show up, and then I can cover the cost of all this stuff,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that our conversation just now is a perfect example. Like, it's the guy with the 9 to 5 wishing they could be building bikes, and it's the bike builder wishing they could have, a guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks and health insurance or what. I say that because you mentioned that, but whatever that.
Well,
looks
essentially,
like.
I think that what I've found is that I could have all those things if I treated this like a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't travel, I didn't do all the extracurricular things, all the things that you would think are the benefits of being self-employed. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have those, I feel like it could be here.
Or less of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you gotta understand, like, this isn't a great business plan because everything financially everything that I make, everything I do in this shop to make money, I have to touch it. Like nothing comes in and out of this shop that I didn't touch that puts money into it.
Yep, it's all on you.
If I had a CNC machine over there and I made a bunch of, reservoir caps for road glides, like that would be, I'm still touching it, but like that's a lot of things going out. You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
And this is a fucking luxury.
It is.
On top of a luxury. You know what I mean? So.
But you're damn good at what you do. Don't forget that.
It.
That's why you got that pretty road glide too, sitting in the garage.
Oh, you make me feel so much better about having all this privilege.
Stay tuned for our next motivational speech.
So, in your journey getting into all this stuff, is there parts of, like, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but like, are there things that you wanted to learn, be more savvy in? Like, have you had a point where you wanted to maybe do a cam or, like maybe not build anything, but like, work on the bike in a certain degree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to, I bought some, from Tucker Speed, I bought a +2 Legends front suspension. So I'm going to take it to Chris, but he's like, I'll show you what I'm doing and walk me through it. So I'm going to learn that. I mean, I've got a cam in both bikes, but I'll learn that at some point for sure. Yeah. And look, Chris has been really great about anything I want to learn.
Yeah, shout out to Chris, man. City Morgue.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have known he was in my backyard if it wasn't for this podcast, right? And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here because I about choked on a steak sandwich when you were in St. Louis, and he had to give me the fucking Heimlich. So
I forgot that. Yeah, that's crazy.
That was wild, but no, he's been such and a supporter. I know you're a podcast supporter of ours too, which I greatly appreciate. And he's like, anytime, whatever you want me to work on, I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm definitely, I want to learn it all. That's how I've always been wired. Like when I was much younger and into car stereos, well, I can figure out how to wire that, right?
Yeah,
so there's a sub in the trunk and replace my 6x9s and 6.5s and blah, 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 whatever head unit. Alpine, but with the Dolphins. But I learned how to do that, and I'm not an expert on cars, but I know enough to be dangerous, and because I wanted to learn, and there's stuff that I just don't have the space or the tools to do it. And nowadays, like with a kid and single dad and podcasts and work and blah blah blah, I mean, I just don't have time. So
like I was essentially a single dad most of my 20s, and my daughter lived with me until she was 13, and that was when I was 29.
Okay.
Or 30. Somewhere around there, because I was 29 years old when I first drank.
Okay.
And because I didn't do any of that stuff whenever I had her.
Sure.
And literally I'd pick her up from school, and then I would take her to a body shop, and I'd be airbrushing a hood mural for a lowrider, and she'd be in there, and it wasn't no iPad, so like she was just hanging out. And we're really close now, but when she left to go back with her mom is when all this shit happened. Like, I became more heavy into motorcycling.
Okay.
I started traveling on bikes. I had the ability to, right?
Sure.
So my entire 30s was when all this fast life garage shit got built. You know what I mean? And then I met my wife through it and things like that. And we don't have kids, and I don't have kids at home.
Right.
My son comes over every once in a while, but like, you know what I mean? So like there's a lot of things that if my daughter would have stayed with me, that we might not be sitting here for sure. You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, I work from home now, but I wasn't always working from home. I've had office jobs, and there's times where I pick Sophia up, and she came back to the office with me for the last couple hours of the day, or I've been fortunate enough to be on boards of a couple charities, and trust me, she's ran board meetings with me, sitting next to me on her iPad or doing homework while I, did whatever I needed to do for the board meeting. That's just what you do as a single dad. You make it work. So, and I'm thankful for it. I got to show her, this is dad working, this is dad giving back and charity stuff. And she sees me doing the podcast stuff, and she's like, so you have social media? I was like, yeah, you got TikTok? I was like, well, yeah, for MotoState. She's like, you're too old for that, Dad. But it's been fun to show her just that journey. Yeah. Like you're never too old to start over or start something new. So
or start period. You know what I mean? And that's why I was telling you that, is that like I understand the space of being a parent first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if I could have had my son his entire life, like him never be a weekend kind of thing, I would trade all this shit for that, just to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
But it is
that's
what
life.
It is. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's just the way it works out sometimes. And I mean, certainly I wouldn't trade anything with what I've got now, and I'm thankful that Sophia has a good mom and a good co-parent. And but if I needed to take her full time tomorrow for whatever reason, I'd do it in a heartbeat, and I would quit whatever I needed to quit and make that work. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, I didn't really know how I would go about like talking about the influencer stuff, but like I said, I listened to that podcast that you guys put out. It kind of like opened a can of worms in my head.
He texted me like, I've got some input on this.
Well, it's not easier to answer. It's kind of like when you know that old meme where it's like what it feels like to be sitting in a podcast. And it's like here, but then there's a dude with some boots over there, but no.
Yeah.
The clothes and everything's there, but no body in there.
Right.
It's like, that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be on this end of it. You know what I mean? To have so much to say, and fortunately, I have at least your number to text me. Like, this is what. But
that's funny.
And in the end of it, like, I think that whether making money or not or any of this shit, like, I do love this world.
Yes.
Like, this world is, giving me a lot, the opportunities, my wife, the ability to feed my family, the friends that I've acquired over the last 20 years of my life all came from this world. And in a way, one of the first podcasts I ever did, my buddy Zombie Mike said, a rising tide floats all ships. And I don't want this shit to die while I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And not that I'm in charge, but whatever influence I can be, I want it to be uplifting this culture.
Yeah.
So that it's here, and that somebody else along the way, when I'm too old to do it or can't do it, or the algorithm doesn't want my kind in here.
Well, you do a good job of doing that.
That's what I that's one of the best rewards out of it.
Yeah.
To take away any kind of financial compensation, meeting somebody and being like, I got to do a podcast with you because I'm motivated right now.
Yeah.
Like, when you have that platform to do that, there's been times like that that's been completely.
I can appreciate that. Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of right now is a very cool moment for obvious reasons. I have a lot of respect for you, and it's your podcast and Ryan's old podcast that really got me into, like I said, deeper into the motorcycle community and into podcasts, which has been really good for me. But and now Ryan and I have one together, so it's kind of, I don't know if it's full circle or just kind of surreal moment. And so I appreciate not only being on the show, but like what you've done for the community, because you've helped inspire me to try this and give it a whirl. And it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot, not just the motorcycle community and motorcycle history, but just trying to take my listener hat off and like podcaster hat on. Even before this all started for us was like, how's Jace approaching this? And like, the questions you ask, and it's been a lot of fun. And then what struck me from the very first show I listened to, your episodes I listened to, was, how much you build up the community and you talk to folks. I mean, this is a great example. I mean, not that we're competitors, but it's another podcast, but you're having me on here to talk about my podcast on your podcast, and they're both in the motorcycle world. So please keep doing what you're doing. This community needs an advocate like you in it.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes it's I don't know, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's collaborations and all that kind of stuff is how, like, I think communities grow. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I wouldn't be in a podcast if Danger Dan wouldn't have brought me into it, So,
Sure.
And he's a podcaster. He's kind of like, in my opinion, kind of the OG.
Yeah.
He wasn't the first motorcycle podcast, but he's the first one that stuck with it, in my opinion. So yeah, if like he didn't do that for me, then I wouldn't exist here. And if I wouldn't pay that forward, I would be doing it as a service to even the opportunities that I got. You know what I mean? And I think like when you get older in all these things, like you kind of accumulate ideas, perspectives, and opinions, even skills that you kind of want to give somebody, right?
Yeah.
And it sometimes, like, especially nowadays, the way that there's not like a kid showing up to the shop going, man, I want to get into this. It's some fucking kid that doesn't use grammar that's like blowing up your Instagram, like,
Right.
Hey, how do you do this? Or, hey, I want to start a podcast. How do I do it? Like, not like I said, I talked about this on the Builtwell podcast. It's like they're not showing you any kind of effort put into something, right?
Yeah.
But they want all the knowledge. And like me getting into the chopper world, I had to, in my opinion, I had to completely go into that whole world as a student, not go in there trying to tell them who I am and what I've done and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I'm here so you can tell me why the shovel head's better than this or that, or why you use this. And like, I'm here to gain knowledge, not project who I am. And it's like, it's something that, like, I think that, it's not that we don't need more podcasts or more camp outs or more of this. Like, we need more people doing it with purpose.
It's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because people's time is important.
Yeah.
And, like, I want to support people, but I got to support purpose.
Yeah.
I listen to your podcast. I listen to the Builtwell one. I listen to these podcasts from these people that I find value because they're giving me a perspective that is better than some, like, shitty one, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean?
It's
not wasting my time.
It's quality to you, right?
Yeah,
and that's what's important.
And there's just a lot. I think there's a lot to that. When I first met Steve Chamberlain, you know what I mean? Like, it was somebody that, like, this dude is so rad and he's fast and he's cool. And I'm like, bro, you gotta come on the podcast. We gotta do this. We gotta do all this stuff together. And, at the time, not saying that the podcast did this or anything, but at the time, like, Steve Chamberlain was the homie from Michigan.
Right.
Right. He wasn't a BRL racer yet. He hadn't done a lot of the things that he ended up doing, right? So it was just finding somebody rad through motorcycling and having a platform to be able to showcase that person.
Yeah.
And to me, like, it's great to do it. Like, that should never change. Whether it's having the Ness family on one day and you on the next.
Yeah,
absolutely. Two different ends of the spectrum.
Oh, absolutely.
If you will, but, like, both important perspectives to bring to the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, and that's kind of approach we take. Our first guest was a really good friend of mine. She had just built her first chopper. She's also a trauma therapist that specializes with working with first responders and veterans. Mm-hmm. So her perspective of not only just building her first chopper and been riding for a long time, a female rider's perspective, but also let's talk about mental health, right? Mm-hmm. And man, that was so cool. And then we've had Taylor on, and we've had Alicia from Peripheral Apparel, who another female rider who's built her own brand of clothing, and just different aspect, different folks, and it's been a lot of fun just getting to learn those folks, whether they're established or not. And I didn't realize, I forgot that you had Steve on so early on before.
Yeah, Steve was on, like, within, I think the first podcast he was on was within our first year. Because I met Steve because he came to our camp out.
Oh, okay.
Our very first ever camp out. And then he was just super rad the whole time. And then he flew out and stayed with me that winter, which was like around when we did our first like anniversary parties here.
Okay.
And so it just got to a point where he was always around. Steve and I, in 10 more years, just being able to reminisce on the experiences we've had together, it's insane, and
he's a good dude.
Yeah. So, and same thing with like Kyle and all these people. And as you do podcasts longer and you get more ingrained into this community, like you'll be able to sit back and be like, man, you remember we did the first time we did a podcast together? It was in that small little fucking shack or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's like, it's insane. Like reminiscing is just something that I think it's good for the soul of like being, I don't know, like gracious for like the opportunities and the shit you got to do or whatever you want to say. But like, because sometimes you can take for granted like wherever you're sitting, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
A studio or this or, again, I've sat in rooms sometimes doing podcasts, people are like, how the fuck did I get here? You know what I mean?
I thought that walking in here today, so I understand. Like, what? Me? Huh? What? But,
yeah. No, that's cool. So you going Mama Tried this weekend? What's the expectation?
A damn good time. A lot of cold snacks at Elwood's. Man. Without you, very sad.
I really want to be there.
I know. I get it. No, I think it's gonna be fun. Usually I go up on Friday and I'm out Sunday. I'm gonna go up Thursday this time. Yeah. So get to maybe go the whatever bike races they're doing at the museum Thursday night. And
well, Thursday's good to get there and do like the first pre parties that they have. But then Saturday or Friday you have the whole day to maybe go to the museum, do a little more sightseeing before going to like Flat Out Friday or something like that.
And I wanna I can't believe I'm saying this, but shoot a little content Friday for the podcast and do that. Then obviously you get Flat Out Friday, and then Saturday we'll go to obviously go to Mama Tried, and then Ryan and I are going to try. We're not going to film a podcast, but we're going to try to film some stuff together also for the podcast. Since for folks who don't know, I'm in St. Louis. Ryan lives in North Dakota, so we're nowhere close to one another. So we're going to try to take advantage of the time together as well to shoot some stuff. But I think it's just going to be a good time. Catch up with some folks. Who I know Taylor and them are going to be there. Looking forward to catching up with him. And
yeah, it sucks, man. I want to be there. I think just the mountain of work that I have.
Sure.
And it's like I'm on a good path right now, like with structure, like waking up early. I'm not going to bed in the middle of, you're not seeing any posts for me at 3 a.m. right now. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm on a good path and I'm getting a lot of stuff done and I have a lot of opportunity right now that I need to capitalize on. So as much as I need to do a little road trip and get some podcasts in the can, you know, I want to I got to build this FXR so that I can deliver this in the agreed upon time. So then I can take a 2-week vacation and jump on my FXR and go make content.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's great
self-awareness.
self-awareness.
My shovel.
Shovel, yeah. That's great self-awareness. I mean, it's easy to get distracted, especially when it comes to like Mama Tried.
We have things coming up. Here in Texas, we have the Lone Star swap meet, which is it's a good communal thing. So you can like do the swap meet thing, which I'm learning to love a lot more now that I know more what those parts are for the choppers and stuff.
Sure.
I'm not looking at a pile of parts like, oh shit, I know what that is, and that one looks pretty good. You know what I mean? So learning that stuff has made it to where it makes sense to be at those things. Then we have Nitty Gritty, which is kind of like what our camp out was, but a little. What's good about it is someone else is doing it all, and there's shit going on, and I just get to go and be a part of it.
Sure.
So we host like a little show, like a performance motorcycle show within it.
Okay.
And then hopefully I'll be wrapping up this FXR for Homeboy to come down and ride it back to Minneapolis, where he's outside of Minneapolis, Wisconsin more. But
when do you plan on having that done?
The goal is mid-April.
Okay.
Which, if everything in the next couple, like I'm not. I say this and then I have like a YouTube video of me like missing deadlines and shit. But for the most part, everything is kind of here. You know what I mean? Like there's a few things here and there buttoning up, and like I said, I'm gonna be able to spend all next week doing the fabrication that I need to do on it.
Okay.
Before I have, I should be good. Like it should be going into paint before Nitty Gritty, which is like towards the end of March.
Okay.
and then, but this, what's unique and fun about this, and maybe my excuse as to why I think I can get it done, is that I'm actually getting paid to build this. So as before, when I'm doing this, every time I'm touching this bike, I'm not getting paid, and technically I'm spending money.
Sure.
So I would have to paint a helmet and then jump back on this and work till 2 a.m.
Right.
This, I can come in at 8 and work till 4, and I'm not worried about financially, like, because at once we get to a certain point, I draw,
Yeah.
you know, and okay, I just paid my bills for this week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the one perspective that's different.
Sounds like a construction loan in my banker mind, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you can draw checks.
Well, I mean, it kind of is. I mean, the thing is that, like, I think bike building, I think everybody wants it to be a price, like on a wall, like this costs this much, this much, this much. But when you're doing custom things like we're doing on this bike,
Yeah.
A lot of it is a range of where it could be. You know,
It's
and of
just-
course, I'm going to have 400 hours in this thing, and I'm only going to be able to build like 80 to 100 of it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, people have built a home, you know, like, hey, you know, you want to upgrade or change something, that's going to cost more money.
Yeah.
Cost of labor or cost of materials go up. I mean, you just never know. There's things that are going to come up. Just like with this, like things are going to
Yeah.
come up. So,
Yeah, I clocked it just for my own knowledge, just so that I'm aware, because I'm keeping details of all this. I'm not charging the customer for it, but in just parts sourcing and phone calls, I have 15 hours.
I don't doubt that.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, man, like,
2 full days
yeah, just
trying to find parts. That's
just
wild.
finding parts to figure out what I need to make, because it's not a. If it was a bagger, you know, I have a 2016 bagger, or I have a 2023 bagger.
Sure.
Because this is a 92 FXR with a twin cam motor,
Right.
And we're putting bagger, rear swing arm, wider
Yeah.
wheels, 49 millimeter dyno front end,
Frankenstein, right?
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything's going together. So you got to do a lot of phone calls and conversations to see what's going to work.
Sure.
And now once I've done it, I have 120 hours if you want to do this. Oh, you want to change from here? All right. Well, that's probably once I've done a couple, then
You
I'll
get
have kind of a baseline.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
But yeah, you know, I'm not trying to get rich off of it either. I just want to make sure that I'm compensated for all the time that goes into it.
Well, it also puts out there that you're not just a painter.
Finally,
Right?
Yeah.
Helps push that narrative.
yeah. The paint on this thing's gonna be pretty subtle.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. The customer, like, crazy enough, like, this is probably my most subtle personal paint job I've ever had, and it appeals to a lot of people. So hey, I can do them.
It's clean. That looks good.
They don't want any dragons or some pirates.
Yes.
Pirates of the Caribbean thing.
Apparently Vanilla Ice. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I got an airbrush Vanilla Ice tomorrow, so that's gonna be fun.
I can't wait to see that.
So you plan on going to bike night tonight or what?
Yeah, you
Where
going?
If you're gonna go, I'll go.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll go.
drinking right now, but I'll go.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
All
do
right.
it. Be good to see
So,
everybody.
MotoState Podcast. Are y'all on all the platforms that you know of?
Yeah, we're on all the platforms. Obviously, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, blah, blah, blah.
The whole thing. YouTube
Yeah.
as well.
YouTube as well, absolutely. Yeah.
And I would love to have Ryan on the podcast, but my policy is in person.
Yep.
So
I'll ship his ass down here.
yeah, if y'all want to fly down one day together,
That'd
or
be-
if I get up there, I don't know when I'm ever going to be. Maybe we can meet in Minneapolis. Yeah, that's a good.
Oh, that's easy for him. Yeah.
It is?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I think Minneapolis is only a couple hours for him.
All right, yeah, that's not too bad then. Yeah, I've only ridden like on the map that much of North Dakota.
He's
like,
in Grand Forks, which is right on the border.
On the border?
of Minnesota. So I think
okay,
he's
it's
not
not too
far
bad.
from
Yeah.
Minneapolis. I'll hop. Maybe that'll be a good long trip in the FXR. I haven't done a real good long trip on that
There you
thing.
go. Yeah, like I said, he's the one that got me on Five Dirty Bikers a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah.
So appreciate him and the fact that because I felt like that world was not really my world, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And just being on there and being able to share it was cool and whatnot. So I appreciate him.
Yeah. He's good
back
people.
then.
Yeah.
It made it to where you got to know about me and then all the.
Yeah, it's funny, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon over
Yeah,
here.
exactly. All right, Luke, thank you.
sir.
Had a great time with you at Mama Tried last year. Unfortunately, you're going to have to carry the party.
I'll carry the torch, and you'll be getting a lot of pictures of
Hell yeah.
of some beers.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, sir.
Definitely. All right.
Cool, man. Thank you. That was fun.
I don't know how long it was.
I don't know.
I've been trying
Holy
to.
shit, it's almost 7.
Yeah.